Hello, and welcome to the Trans Nerdy Podcast. I am here with my friend Justin. Say hi, Justin.
Hello.
We're here to talk about Suicide Squad and our thoughts and impressions on it. So, I'm your host, Jesse Earl, and we're going to jump right into it. So, Justin.
Yes.
What makes you think you could talk about Suicide Squad? I was going to say Justice League, but
well,
you're not there yet.
You're almost there. I mean, the two movies kind of tied together in some way or form.
Yeah.
DC's really trying to push the whole. All right, let's kind of roll with this and just knock it out.
Let's just bang it out and let's get it done.
But I like the reason why I think I can talk about it is because I went to see it.
So you have it right
the
there.
first. Well, we both went to go see it.
Mm-hmm. We went to see it together there last night.
The first theater was sold out.
Which is good, which I'm happy about. Like, I want DC films to be successful. And apparently, I was reading today that this movie did actually well over expectations.
Yeah?
Yeah, like the first weekend actually did really a lot better than they actually expected them to actually do. Which is good.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that it's not actually going to come out in China, which is a whole different deal.
That's a whole different deal. But we're not going to discuss that now. We're just critiquing the movie.
Yeah.
But giving a good review, maybe not so good review. We can't really tell you. Yeah,
okay.
Stay tuned.
But yeah, I mean, like for me, I'm a huge DC fan, and I've been like following Batman and all these characters. I used to be a big Batman fan, but then I fell in love with Harley, who is like one of my favorite characters. I really love her complicated relationship, which isn't in this film, which frustrates me. It's very straight. Her whole thing in this movie is very straightforward, and it bothers me. It's not as complicated as the movie. It's like pretty much most of the movie should have been. Yeah. Way more complicated than it was. It's pretty dumb and straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward. Pretty much bam, 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 all the beats are laid out in front of you, and you kind of... If you're a film person, I'm a film person, so I kind of can read a film just like that. So it's really annoying when I'm like halfway through the movie, and I already kind of know
exactly what's going to happen. I think anybody in that theater is like, all right, they're going to beat the bad guy, it's going to be over, and she's going to live. And what actually, this is getting a little bit ahead of myself, and also full spoilers for the movie. Like, we're going to talk about the whole thing. If you haven't seen the movie, go see it before you continue watching this. But anyways, what I was talking about, I wish this movie had actually taken chances to take risks and be complicated. This is getting ahead of myself, like I was saying. But at the end, I got so frustrated. You remember me being in the theater where they almost killed the Enchantress at the end, and I'm like, oh, good, they actually made the story have weight and feeling and emotions. This is the Suicide Squad. Not everyone makes it back, and that hurts.
Yeah.
And then she wakes up.
Yeah.
She wakes up at the end and is like, oh, she's fine. And I was like, oh, good, happy ending. That was such they had a moment there where it could have meant something, and they just pass on. That's a small nitpick that I'm getting into right now. We have bigger problems with the film, but that's just something I wish this film had done.
You can't. I felt it. When you see the editing choices and you start to see, oh, they're cutting back to her, cutting back, and there's some tension, the music starts going, and you're just like, no, don't do it. In the back of your mind, you're like, don't do it.
Yeah,
and then they do it, and then it's just like, oh.
It was so cheesy.
And it makes you feel so kind of upset and disappointed because if they're going to go into this movie, they should go all balls out. They should go balls out.
Crazy, complicated, weird shit. It shouldn't have been like this. They try to make it like this big superhero film, which I've seen a bazillion times. I've seen Avengers 1, I've seen Thor, I've seen all those straightforward movies.
It's all the same.
Do something different. You had an interesting vibe and an interesting take that went going into it with the trailers. And apparently, there was a lot of editing hullabaloo, 2 different cuts of Trailer Park, which is a trailer house, actually cut half this film, and then they kind of combined them together in weird ways. It just felt like they didn't want to go all the way and wanted to go as far as they could have gone with the concept, and it just ended up being a blah movie.
Well, I think they tried to go a long way with the visuals.
At the start
of the movie.
For the Act 1. So let's get into good things. So Act 1. Visually, and it actually had what we were talking about. It had a character to it. That whole first act, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't a perfect first act. Some weird ways of doing things. I would have started the movie off with Amanda Waller coming in and giving a list of all the people instead of having that weird setup for the prison at the beginning where you have the 2 scenes with Deadshot and Harley.
Yeah,
would not have started there.
No.
But anyways, besides that, that first sequence. whole first act had like a lot of character in it when we were going through and meeting all these characters.
Yeah, it felt like very much a DC comic panel where you kind of get an intro of all the characters, and you kind of have a theme song to it, and it kind of like the beginning of like a show or something like that. But you have this very straightforward montage where you introduce all your characters. I felt they were going a little overboard.
It was too long. The first act goes on for about an hour.
Yeah,
the first act's an hour long, and even after,
too long.
Yeah, and you don't get no one get, and even when they get it, it's kind of blah, but and unclear. But no character in this movie has a goal until an hour in.
Yeah.
None of these characters have an actual, like, I want this for X reason, and we all are working together to get this thing.
Yeah.
We don't get that, like, impetus of these guys coming together in over an hour. And even then, once they go on the mission, it kind of becomes murky.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's getting into bad things again, but the style.
So, I mean, so the opening is really beautiful to the eye. You're watching a bunch of colors and really flashy text.
Like dream, like craziness sequence that had
a lot of like flashbacks and like kind of in a montage form to give you a sense of like who the characters are, which is really well. It's well done, but the whole thing does go on a bit long, and at the same time they give you all these lists to read with the characters, like
really quickly, everything you're supposed to know.
Bam, 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 bam. All these things that you're supposed to know, but they don't really give you the time to look at it and be like, okay, daughter. I saw something about daughter there for Deadshot, and I didn't quite read it. And then later on, you kind of know, okay, wait, yeah, he's got a daughter because they talk about it. It's repeated,
and they tell you a lot of characters.
And they tell you a lot of these things that they've written down. So
like
the
big thing with Captain Boomerang, he has that fetish for pink unicorns, which is funny, and it's brought up a couple times in the movie, but it's told to you in text. And so you don't feel connected to it until like it also pops up like, oh, ha, that's funny. And I got a few laughs from the crowd we were at last night, but overall, I just it didn't land because I didn't get it. I didn't visually see it. It was just told it to me. It was just told to me in a line of text. Not a visual story.
There was no visual discovery for it too.
Yeah.
Like some of the things that you could read were implied in the actual motion picture, so you didn't have to have them in text. You know, you could have had those big bold letters. You know, bam, Harley Quinn, and freeze frame, which they did a lot of freeze frame, a lot of excessive slow motions and stuff like that.
And that's sort of the Zack Snyder verse coming into this.
Yeah, you know, like there's a lot of that slow motion back into fast motion, so. Some of it got a little corny, and I laughed. I ended up laughing at those really serious slow motion parts that are serious and dramatic, but I ended up laughing.
What did work for me in this movie, talking about good things, is there were a few scenes smattered here and there that I actually liked. Like I think the best scene in the whole movie is when they all seem like they're out and they quit and they go into the bar and they like start sharing those moments. And Diablo gives his backstory.
I was conflicted about that.
Really?
Because
I had problems with Diablo, but overall I thought that scene worked, and actually finally started getting me to feel like the team had some sort of camaraderie, which was missing throughout most of the movie. The team didn't feel like they were a team, really at all. Like when Harley Quinn at the end's like, "We're friends, and you messed with my friends." I didn't believe that they were friends as well.
Yeah. There was no connection that you could feel
between them.
Exactly.
Why the hell did they care about each other? And there were moments of that came through.
Yeah, like Harley Quinn and Deadshot in the hallway when she has a really powerful moment, like "Have you ever been in love?" Mm-hmm. And you know, you kind of get these really great character moments, but very, very seldom character moments. Very few of them, because...
And it feels like a lot of them, we'll get into that more.
We'll get into this, because most of the movie takes place ground zero, the pinnacle of, like, the second act, like, beginning of the third act, where it's you know, the heaviest moment of the movie. Where you're almost
and they're essentially walking 10. They're apparently walking 10 blocks. You bring the Suicide Squad to walk like 10 blocks.
10 blocks, yeah.
And like, you have all these like Navy SEAL guys and stuff doing almost as well as they are. So like, why did you have to have Deadshot? Why is Killer Croc? What does Killer Croc out of this? What is Harley like? I love my Harley Quinn, but why was she there? What did a girl in booty shorts add to this big epic battle going on. How is she supposed to stop a world-ending witch, a girl in booty shorts?
Right. I think all of these little holes in the character development of the story are due to the fact that I think they thought our fans know the characters.
Yeah, already.
And so we don't really have to go through the trouble of doing that. Well, you're just hopping out, really.
It feels like they took an in-between approach. Like they were like, oh, the audience knows these characters, but then we still need to introduce some stuff to you so you're not so lost. Yeah. But it just felt wishy-washy. Either assume we know nothing about these characters and introduce them to us, kind of like a la Marvel. Like Marvel started off being like, okay, we have to assume we love the comics, but the reason we love the comics is because it's been built up over years. So to get to that big epic crossover moment, you need to build it up. Yeah. As much as I don't like Marvel as much, that they built it up assuming like you know nothing about these characters, we'll give you everything in a 2-hour movie about these characters.
Yeah.
So you need to either do that, like have a movie where I've seen Harley Quinn in it, have a movie where I've seen Deadshot in it. Either do that or just assume I already know. Just assume I already know all that I need to know. Don't spend like forever giving me exposition. Don't spend an hour giving me exposition on these characters. And just assume like, hey, all right, here's a 5-minute, like a montage of 5 minutes showing you everything that you need to like get up to speed on the characters, like they did in Assault on Arkham. If anyone's seen that movie, which is a much better Suicide Squad movie, they do a 5-second opening montage in that movie that gives you everything. It's all visual. It has character, has that spunk, and then it literally is only 5 minutes in the movie and it tells you everything you need to know.
Pretty much like if you go see the movie, imagine the first like 20 minutes of the movie where it's all freeze frame, introduction of the character's name, pretty much that in 5 seconds, and better done because it's
I don't want to compare too much to that movie just because not everyone's seen that one.
Yeah, okay, but it's done more effectively. Is what you're saying.
Exactly. It's just that you don't need to sit there and have me have an hour of exposition. So which I enjoyed the fun of it. Like they had it was very kind of on the nose sometimes, but like I enjoyed some of the music choices. I enjoyed like some of the stylizations, like when they go and show what's going on in Harley's head, like that weird creepy pink visualizations that they did. It was cool, but it got so long in the tooth, and took so long to get anywhere to actually make me feel like, all right, these characters are going to do something. Because for an hour of the movie, they're not doing anything. And then when they start doing things later on in the movie, when they start like they go into the city, they still don't exactly know why they're there. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And there are certain. The movie felt like to me, we were following the characters. We already knew the whole setup ourselves as viewers. And so the characters have no idea what's going on. It feels like there are scenes, literal scenes.
Yeah, I guess we'll get into this editing bit.
Yeah, it feels like what happened here was all these moments should be filled in with scenes that weren't there. It felt like there were
scenes missing. Like for example,
literally missing.
Like literally, for example, there's that bit at the end where Deadshot like gets all the letters from his daughter. And he's like, "You've been hiding these letters from my daughter. Like how I didn't realize that he was feeling upset about his daughter in prison.
Right.
There should have been a scene. I don't know if they shot it and cut it out, or because it feels like it should have been. Like it feels like it was shot, and they just didn't bring it up. Yeah. A scene of Deadshot being upset that his daughter hasn't contacted him. Like we get this intro of like his daughter doesn't see him as a good dad, and she's like kind of like, oh, I'm not sure how I feel about my dad being a killer. And then you should have. And so Deadshot should have had that disappointing moment in prison, like, oh, my daughter doesn't love me. When in the end, and so when in the moment at the end when you have this big moment, like, my daughter loves me, it's a big moment, and it means something to the character, and so you have to have set that up earlier. Yeah. Which I feel like the way it was written, it feels like it was and just was taken out. Yeah. And there's a lot of that in the movie where it feels like there's literal scenes that are payoffs. Like there are scenes in this movie that feel like payoffs to scenes that we didn't see.
Exactly. Like almost as if I went in and I watched the movie and then I was like, all right, I watch it, I know it, let's recut it and take out all the things that are unnecessary that we think are necessary.
They were necessary.
And they took out things that were necessary. And I feel like that's a product of both the mixture of artistic vision and then corporations trying to say, well, okay, no, let's take this stuff out because it's either too lengthy, it's making the movie too long, or it's just unnecessary gibberish that doesn't make the movie flow.
Yeah.
Even if it pauses the flow of your movie for a good time,
a few minutes,
few minutes or so, it can be effective in establishing a
It doesn't need to be all actional. I could have frankly done with a lot of less fight scenes with these generic garbage men.
Yeah.
Like whatever the hell they were.
Yeah, I didn't even know what they were.
I could use a little less fight scenes with them.
There were a lot of fight scenes. Most of that movie was literally, okay, here's a Suicide Squad. All right, we're getting them out of prison. And
for an hour.
For like an hour. And then they get told their mission. And so the slope goes up. And then we're in this, climax period forever. Like, we're at ground zero fighting all these things.
It feels like it goes right from Act 1 to Act 3.
To Act 3, yeah.
The Act 3 set piece, but then we still have Act 2 shit going on in the middle of the Act 3 set piece.
Yeah, and then the climax when they all feel depressed and and then they go into the bar and start drinking didn't feel like a climax. Didn't feel like it was the struggle, that period where the characters are faced with the ultimate difficult
the low,
decision,
and they have to get together.
the very low. And it wasn't low enough. It was like, oh, we just fought a bunch of these things. What the fuck's going on? Now we're gonna go drink at a bar.
And which
is why I felt disappointed in that scene.
And another time that I felt disappointed in that scene, with other scenes, it's a great scene. Like the bar scene's a great scene, and the Harley Quinn, when Harley Quinn shows up in the rain and she's like, "I'm back, guys," and everyone
we're gonna get to
we'll get to more of Harley Quinn's sexualization, but that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But that scene, it's a good scene where she comes back, she shows up, everyone's like, here, and they toss her the bat, and it shows she's part of the team. That's a good scene, but it doesn't work because you didn't have a camaraderie with the team beforehand. It didn't feel like they had a camaraderie until that point. So when they're like, "Here, kid, here's your bat," when Captain Boomerang tosses her the bat, I didn't feel, I felt like we're supposed to feel emotionally connected to that moment, but we didn't because I had never seen. I don't even remember. Did Captain Boomerang talk to Harley Quinn at any point before that?
Right. We had no other. Aside from them all kicking ass together, there isn't a moment where they all have a moment together to kind of talk about their situation. Give those the small moments. And
feel them connect with each other, which you got in the bar scene, but that's it.
But that's it. And you got once in the bar scene a tiny bit with Harley Quinn and Deathstroke in the hallway because she's thinking about the Joker and she asks him that really deep question. And then you have a little bit when Harley thinks the Joker's dead.
Yeah, a tiny bit.
And those moments I felt like were so overpowered by all of the just monotonous fight scenes, and I don't know. The stakes weren't really high because I felt like they weren't clear. Yeah,
we didn't know what the hell they were doing for half the movie, and then it turns out there's the twist of they're saving Amanda Waller, but why was she even there? Why did she have to be there?
Yeah.
So we've been kind of jumping all over the place, but I want to focus on one of the things that you and I just know going into this movie that we were really, really excited to see was Harley Quinn.
Yes.
This is her first big screen appearance. Margot Robbie playing her. I really kind of enjoy Margot Robbie. She's good.
She's sexy.
That's a whole different problem that I have with this movie, the sexualization of Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't that bad. It could have been worse.
But
now we are gonna talk about scenes that were cut from this movie, which will explain a lot of things. Which is why it wasn't so bad. Could have been bad, but it wasn't.
Well, one of the things I felt like a lot of the problem with this movie is, she didn't feel like Harley Quinn is to a degree a feminist icon, and not that you have to be a feminist, but it was clear that the people writing this movie, or at least who edited this movie, didn't want to go that route. It all felt really safe, where Harley is she has this ideal relationship with the Joker in this version of the film.
Yep.
She is really in love with the Joker. They actually really care about her. From the way this trailer was edited, the Joker seems to care about her, despite the fact that he fries her brain earlier in the film and trying to hurt her. But that's the only sense we get that he's abusive in any way. But the relationship actually seems pretty good, and they seem to have a good relationship. And then it's all about her trying to get back to her pudding.
Yeah.
Which is hard for me because a lot of what I find complicated about Harley in the comics and in her where she comes from is that her relationship with the Joker is abusive. He's the worst criminal mastermind that you in the world, and he's like a complete deranged psychopath, and he's abusive to her, and yet she loves him anyways.
Yeah.
And so she sort of has this weird Stockholm syndrome-esque thing with like she's in love with her abuser, and
which is really important to the dynamic of their relationship.
Incredibly important,
and really important to the dynamic of the story. It could have made a much more powerful message towards why she really wants to be with him, and in the end of the movie would have made a lot more sense.
It really would have. Like, I would have cared about her a little more. Like in this movie, I didn't feel like I love Harley, but I love Harley because she goes through all this crap and yet still has this like kind of crazy like positive vibe on things. And in the end, most of the time she usually gives the Joker back just as much as he gives her.
Yeah.
Like she beats the shit out of him because he deserves to be getting the shit beat out of him by somebody.
Yeah.
Besides Batman.
Yeah.
And we don't feel that here, and we just feel like they have this idyllic relationship. It's totally fine.
All the flashbacks we get of her and Joker are really pushed towards the fans because we get to see the Joker in full beautiful white face and and red lips and green hair, and she's in her classic Harley Quinn suit.
Yeah, and then we have that Ace Chemicals. We have the Ace Chemicals scene, which was really, really phenomenal.
Yeah, and he.
I actually really like that Ace Chemicals.
It's a really beautiful moment where he's talking to her. Do you want to do this? She says yes, and then she falls in, and then he jumps in after her. A little too excessive at the end when they're coming out, and like there's these beautiful colors coming out.
I thought that was a great visual.
It was a good visual.
A little excessive.
Yeah.
Which this film had some decent visuals. Step aside, like there's a Watchmen call out.
There is a Watchmen call out.
Which I thought was brilliantly clever. Anyways, that's a side point. But
we should explain that.
There's that one shot where they're walking through the mall and Deadshot stops and looks up, and there's the smiley face from Watchmen, and he himself, as the person standing there, he's the drop of blood.
He's a drop of blood
that appears on the smiley face.
Yeah,
and that's just a beautiful visual image. So this film had some really decent visual shots. Like, and there's also the shot, I think we mentioned it earlier at some point, maybe we didn't, of the hand flipping over with Enchantress, like as she transforms. Great, beautiful moments. They don't really connect to anything. Yeah. Like the Watchmen thing is just there because it's a Watchmen reference, but it doesn't really connect to anything. Going back,
I feel like Harley's story could have been more powerful if they would have included a scene they did cut from the movie.
And tell me more about this because I didn't see this.
This scene apparently this is after they do the shooting at the clubhouse, and he takes off in the car. Harley goes after him
when they're about to when they get attacked by Batman.
Yeah. This is
right happens.
This happens before they get attacked by Batman. Harley chases after him on her motorcycle. Now we see a glimpse of this in the trailer, but we don't see it in the movie because they cut the whole thing out. She goes after him on her motorcycle, interrupts him, and he's kind of like frustrated, like, Harley, you ruined my day, like a classic Batman, like, Joker and Harley.
Yeah.
And he gets out and they have a fight, and she threatens to kill him. Classic Harley. She puts a gun to his head. And classic Joker sweet talks her, and she falls for it, and then she puts the gun down, and then he smacks her across the face. Just like happens in their relationship. Happens all the time in the comics and even in the animated series. He sometimes slaps her across the face, like, He whacks her,
like, you want to wrap up your Harley? And then he, like, pulls her off the table.
And then he sweet talks her again, and then they kiss at the end of the scene, and then she hops in, and they drive off, and then the Batman interrupts them. And then there's a little more from that they cut out, like the Joker punching up, and just little bits that they cut out.
Which, and also, side note, if this is the world where Batman kills people, why the fuck did he save Harley?
Right.
That's a whole different issue that's connecting this film with Batman v Superman, which is a different issue with the problem with the DC cinematic universe in general.
Yeah.
But going to just this film, I agree. That would have made it great because it would have shown that there's layers, and it shows that like Harley is intrinsically attracted to the Joker, but he is able to sweet talk her, and she listens to him, and he actually hurts her, and he's bad for her in some ways. And she still, and so it would have like set up not that pity is sort of the best emotion to have, but sort of like she never feels empowered at any point.
Right.
Like her agency, a lot of the films is brought on by the Joker doing things for her. Like she is able to escape later on the film with Joker's help.
Right.
So at the end, so she doesn't really have agency.
She's still reliant on him. I felt like
and she relied on a Deadshot later on.
Like, okay, all right. This movie makes a point about we have multiple main characters. Okay, we have Deadshot. We want to care about Deadshot. We have him and his daughter.
He has a family, his daughter.
We have Harley Quinn, really her relationship with the Joker, and every time we were with Deadshot, and every time we were with his story, I felt for him. I felt like we were with him. That moment when he's like up and just defeating all the garbage men. I'm gonna call them garbage men. They look like garbage men.
Yeah, the like weird enchantress bug men.
And so he's shooting them, and all the cops are looking at him. Beautiful moment. I almost teared up. That was a great moment for Deadshot. Loved it. Harley Quinn. Every time I was with her, we were with her. I felt like she wasn't the main character. Like Deadshot, I felt like he was the main character when we were with him, and when we were with Harley, I felt like she was still secondary. I felt like when we were with Harley and the Joker, we were with the Joker. And then, but it was about her, but it wasn't about her.
Harley's agency was all just around men around her.
Right.
Things around, the only moment of agency she really has in the film is at the end when she's faking going over to the Enchantress's side, and then she stabs the Enchantress. And that's something she does. And then she's like, I did it for my friends, which I don't really believe that impulse, because I don't feel like she would have cared for any of these people yet. Because we don't really get all that much of a sense of a camaraderie. We have these little scenes that we were talking about, like we get like the bar scene.
Yeah.
We get those other scenes that are like supposed to make us feel this camaraderie that we don't actually feel at any point. So when she has that agency at the end of like, for my friends, I don't feel it. That's the only motivation she gets. And then at the end of the movie, she's rescued by the Joker again.
Yep.
And she's constantly just being used instead of being the person that she doesn't do things, which bugs the crap out of me. She doesn't feel empowered in this film, and she's supposed to be this big feminist icon. Like she has her own comic now. Like, if you look at Harley in DC Comics right now, she like has her own comic. She does her own stuff.
They got the look down. I mean,
the look was great. I don't like the booty shorts as much, even though she was wearing the booty shorts.
She's wearing the booty shorts, but like they did get her characterization and all that down on the screen. Although her character arc, they didn't follow to what fans could have said. Okay, like that's more notable as Harley Quinn. So again, that just goes down to the editing. Like there were scenes that were shot for this movie that were taken out, that were missing, and they felt missing, and they didn't complete anything. Like,
and they left. Okay, so like we'll go into this now because we're talking about editing of this film. This film had a major issue with editing. We were talking about this earlier, but scenes that felt like they were just taken out of the film, that we should, like, a lot of the scenes that we had felt like payoffs to scenes that weren't actually in the film. And we've talked about that, we mentioned that. But then you have scenes in this film that sort of plop in and punctuate the action that feel needless.
Yeah.
Like Katana. Katana's whole backstory, didn't need it. Katana herself, I don't mind Katana being in this film. Like, Katana wants to show up in this film and be in it. Cool, but you don't need to. We've already had all this time dealing with exposition of people's backstory. So when we finally are heading out to actually do something, they stop and give us Katana's backstory.
Yeah, that was really out of place. Like, at that moment when all right, we're on the plane, we're going to, we're trooped up, let's, play some Led Zeppelin or some Flight of the Valkyries and let's go. All of a sudden, boom, Katana shows up, and then we cut to a very pointless short backstory, which is, okay, wait, she's fighting for somebody she lost. All right.
We don't get any context. You don't get any of that mysticism, and then when she brings up the sword later on, it's just weird.
Yeah, and then we cut right back to her in the plane, and then he's like, hey, this is Katana. She backs me up. You could have just had her show up
and be like, hey, he backs me up.
Yeah.
And what you could have done during that time is showed me maybe even Slipknot's backstory, because I understand Slipknot doesn't get a lot to do in this film. He is there to die, to show the stakes.
Right.
But the way they use it in here, we don't get any backstory. He literally just shows up and then dies.
Yeah.
He just shows up and dies, so I don't feel anything when he dies, and so I don't feel the stakes. I still, even after we see that he gets killed for running away, I still don't feel in the film that they could die for running away, because you just killed off someone who I had zero caring for.
Yeah, like,
so if you had given me Slipknot's backstory at that point where instead of Katana's, when he dies, I would have felt mildly surprised, because you made me invest in him a little bit. You don't make me need to invest too much, but you need to invest in me like, I care a little bit about this guy, so when he dies, I'm like, oh, these are the stakes.
Yeah.
They will die. Characters that we've spent time learning about will die if they leave. so that there's actual risk involved. But you just bring in a character who just dies willy-nilly just doesn't make me, as an audience member, feel worried.
Right.
I don't feel worried for these characters at any point.
Right. I didn't either. And I felt like we jumped there. I felt like there should have been another scene in between, like when they get shot down and they because first of all they're in the air and then they get shot down and for a good 10 minutes we don't know who shot them down.
Yeah, I was like where the hell did the missile come from?
Yeah, where'd the bullets come from? Like apparently bullets come.
They should have showed us that Enchantress was making these minions earlier. Yeah. And I would have had some understanding of like, oh, that's who shot them down.
Yeah, and then they can just go right. But that's the thing that builds to a third act, which they can't do yet
because they don't have a third act.
What happened?
Well, we're already in the third act.
Yeah, we're already in the third act because I feel like the whole second half of this movie happens at Ground Zero. All right, we just landed there. We're so pumped for them
After
to get
our
there.
hour-long of exposition, we land in the city.
We land in the city, and like they shoot a bunch of garbage men, and they're like, "We can't do this." And it's just like I felt like it was very very forced. There weren't any high stakes. Like I would have liked a feud within the group, more so than them, fighting.
Being like, should we fight this? Should we fight for Amanda Waller or should we not? Why the hell are we doing this?
Which is there, but
not enough. And it would have bonded them as a group. They would have had to decide like, are we together in this or not? And there's like we get like one scene of it again of like Deadshot's like, remember being bad, stay bad, or like always bad. We're the bad guys. But they all seem to be individuals doing their own thing. Like we get Harley's individual story, Deadshot's individual story. Really, those two are the sort of the big two individuals that we get. We don't really get much of Killer Croc. We get Diablo. We used to get some Diablo story. Don't want to miss out on Diablo because Diablo is one of the better things about this movie for the most part. So we get all these individual storylines that we're focusing on for the film, but I never feel like they ever came together to meet up and be convoluted in a complicated way.
Yeah.
We're just dealing with Harley's storyline here. We're just dealing with Deadshot's storyline here. We're just dealing with Diablo's storyline here and their specific arcs, and it's never going to mesh.
It's almost like they
just were along the way together.
And I felt like we were forced to see the relationship between them when it really wasn't any set up. Like we said, we get little bits and pieces here.
But it just feels like they're missing scenes that should have been in there that I feel like might have been because we were talking about earlier with scenes that were taken out of this film with the way it was edited. Edited like a trailer for the big moments and none of the small subtleties. They're trying to edit towards like the big fight sequence, the big like character moment. You need to have these smaller moments to make those other moments feel earned.
You also need to slow it down sometimes.
Yeah.
And they did that with the bar scene. But that's it. And I felt like they could have really done a scene before that.
What they should have done is they had a moment. They didn't really, when they were in the prison, when they were getting the assignment, they were like putting on all their clothes. They didn't talk to. I was actually waiting in that scene for them to talk to each other and actually interact with each other as a team, and they didn't. No, they didn't interact in the prison scene. Which they should have. They should have gotten to know each other then.
And we have to give a point here. We're not talking about all of them fighting together. All of them fighting together in a fight sequence is not characters bonding.
Yeah.
It's
that's not how you bond.
It's for the sake of thrill
and
emotion.
Bond for emotion.
Yeah.
They never felt like this is Suicide Squad. They didn't feel like a squad together.
There's like a beautiful moment. Like they're still in Ground Zero. They're kind of like, fuck you. Like the Joker just like rained down the parade, just kind of took Harley away, and now she's swinging free. Like, and there's a beautiful moment when Amanda Waller is like, all right, kill Harley Quinn, and you get to see your daughter. And Deadshot's like, oh, she's dead. And so and you think he's gonna kill her, and then she even fakes it, and then she goes, ha, and then he's like, I missed.
That's a great moment.
It's a good moment, but. You could have really had that more heartfelt if you would have extended the relationship between Harley and him.
So that when he feels like he's killed her for that moment, you feel like, oh shit, he actually cared about her and he did it because he's a bad person.
Yeah.
You actually are tricked into thinking like Deadshot's a bad guy, but then he's not.
Just like Amanda Waller's a bad person, but she's not.
But you would have cared. You would have cared, but I didn't care because I didn't feel like he had any real bond with Harley. And then we get a little bit of the love. Again, it's always like it's just bits and pieces and crumbs that we're getting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it would have I was just like there's a little bit of it, but not enough. I feel like you need to give us all this stuff instead of just implying it with little kernels, you're throwing kernels at us instead of giving us the whole dish. So another thing that I wanted to sort of talk about, I guess we sort of hit on it with a bunch of other stuff, is I'm going to start over because we were moving. So another thing that we wanted to talk about with this film, we kind of touched on it with Harley, but what did you think of the Joker? Because I had a major problem with this Joker in that I was very... I didn't necessarily hate Jared Leto's take on it. There was moments where I'm like, okay, cool, but I felt like he just never felt threatening or over the top enough. During that scene when he and Harley are riding around in their car, right?
Yeah.
What I wanted to be, it just felt like he was joyriding around, just being sort of a thug, gangster guy, just riding around. And what I wanted to be was more theatrical, like the theatrical Joker. The over-the-top, we're going to blow up the city! Stop us, Batsy!
Yeah.
And instead it's just he's just running around and having and then Batman just shows up. He doesn't seem to have a personal relationship with Batman at all. He just sort of he likes that scene where he says, "You got beef with me?" The Joker doesn't say things like "you've got beef."
Yeah, it was way too gangster-y, way too. That's another thing. I felt like the acting was forced on his part. Not that he's a bad actor, but I felt like it wasn't the way the Joker would have been, especially if you want to establish a Joker in your new DC universe that you're going to have multiple films.
Yeah, this Joker has to sustain us for other Batman films. This is the Joker we're stuck with now.
Yeah, and I honestly, in the trailers, I was like, is this Joker? Is this Jason Todd Joker?
Which would have been a great twist, and it would have explained the difference.
That would have been fantastic.
Which I don't... Jason Todd's not necessarily a gangster either, but I would have been behind that take because it would have been all right, this is a different Joker.
Yeah.
But if this is the killing Joker,
yeah, it doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up to what the Joker is, who his character is, and what their relationship, him and Harley's relationship is, because then it gives it a whole different meaning.
And also, if this is the Joker that killed Robin, which is implied because of Batman v Superman,
right?
Wouldn't Batman have had something to say about that in when they have that scene?
Yeah,
there's no personal relationship there. I don't need Bruce Wayne to be saying a lot of lines in this film, but I do need there to be some moment of recognition that this universe is larger.
When you had the Batman chase with when he's on the hood and they're driving, it's all in a flashback montage. If you would actually had that scene in the movie, and then instead of the car driving off into the lake, you could have had Batman rip the fucking hood off the car.
And actually says Joker, you're coming with me.
Or something like that, or
some interaction.
Some interaction. They have a fight or whatever. And then, pushes him in the bay, takes Harley or something, and then goes, because then, at that point, we know that Batman took Harley, and then she's in Arkham or the prison or whatever.
Belle Reve
prison or something like that. So, there is so much strong suggestion towards Batman could have been in this entire movie.
Yeah.
Along with, even though the Joker is Harley Quinn's love interest, and he's a side story, there could have been so much triangulation and tie-ins.
Something exactly. If you have this big fucking thing going on with the Enchantress, why wouldn't Amanda... I know Amanda Waller doesn't trust him, but why would you call in the Suicide Squad when you have someone like Batman existing or Wonder Woman existing? And you are aware of them. Amanda Waller is aware of them. Why wouldn't she be trying to trick Batman and Wonder Woman into fixing the problem? Because she knows their motives, as opposed to using hardened criminals who by the Enchantress getting out, are dangerous and can cause some serious shit.
Right.
It didn't feel like this movie connected with the larger DC universe that they're trying to build.
Right.
They had enough of it in there to say that we did it. That Batman's here, Batman's there, and there's a Flash appears for a few seconds. So you have these things in this film, but then it doesn't connect. If Enchantress is blowing up cities, I could very well believe the Flash or Enchantress Batman or Wonder Woman are gonna show up and do something.
Yeah.
And you had an opportunity here to make a really complicated film.
Really complicated
Batman coming in, and you could have, like, if Batman was fighting the Enchantress, and then Joker was also in there, you had Joker being more of the film, more pertinent in the plot, then you could have created this wonderful, complicated hodgepodge of things going on and motives, because you had the Suicide Squad having a motive of, we want to escape, get away from this, but also do we want to stop Batman, because Batman's the villain, and to us, Batman's a bad guy, we want to stop Batman.
Right.
And also we want to escape, and then also maybe we actually should do this thing, because it's saving the world.
Right.
Joker's motive of, like, wanting to get in to save Harley, but then also not really caring about Harley, but then also, like, wanting to stop Batman. So if Batman comes in, he's like, I want to stop Batman because I have a personal relationship with him, but also I want Harley, but also don't really care about Harley. Would have been confusing, but like a wondrous confusing, like a wondrous, like, complicated soup mess that would have been fun and crazy and off the walls.
Yeah.
In fact, even if it didn't work all perfectly and make sense in the script, I would have loved complicated, off the wall stuff.
It would have, because if you would have brought in Batman more, think about it. Okay, out of all the scenes that were cut, you take out the 2 Joker scenes. 2. There were actually 2. Because at the very end, when they're all fighting the Enchantress, the Joker comes in through the tunnels all half burnt from the helicopter crash, and he's like, come with me, Harley. And she's like, no, I have to help kill this bitch with my friends. And he's
Which one I would have liked.
And he's like, well, fuck you. And he chucks a grenade at them, and he's like, bye. And he, like, starts shooting them, and
Which would have showed Harley being empowered. She's making a decision against the Joker.
But they traded that.
They traded it.
They traded that for when she cuts, like, the Enchantress open.
Which doesn't work as well. It doesn't work with her personal character arc.
But if you would have included Batman, okay, the moment when Joker comes in, like, okay, so Joker wants Harley. He's like, I gotta fucking do whatever I can to get Harley, because he's fucking mad, right? He's gonna blow up. He's gonna blow up Gotham for Harley. All right, so he or blow up other cities for Harley. So he goes after. And then who do you think's gonna go after Batman? Go after the Joker. Batman's going to go after the Joker. So the Joker is out trying to get Harley, destroying all this stuff, while the Enchantress is making this giant machine to make minions.
Batman's trying to save.
Batman's trying to stop the Joker,
and also trying to stop Enchantress at some points too.
Because, and this is what they could have done. They could have taken the end credit scene, plop it at the, like, in the beginning, right? When he's
the end credit scene we were talking about, where, like,
now we know that
Bruce Wayne's meeting with
Now we know that Bruce Wayne knows. So we're like, okay, is Batman going to come in? And then he goes after the Joker. Joker saves Harley, and then instead of the Enchantress, like, destroying the helicopter, you could have had Batman swoop in. He's like, I got you, Joker. And then, like, the helicopter is, like, going down, and they're fighting inside. The helicopter's going down. And that would have made me actually believe the Joker pushes her out to save her, and then the Joker comes down, and, like, you see Batman fly out of the helicopter before it crashes, and then she's like...
Which then you could believe, because in this world, Batman kills people, so then when you think, oh shit, this Batman may actually have killed the Joker.
Right.
That would have been a good play on the fact that Batman kills people.
And Harley Quinn's character, too, because then when she goes back to the guy, she's so devastated, she feels like she's lost him. And then when the Enchantress is, like, going into everyone's heads, into Deadshot's head, and saying, you killed the Bat, like, you know, and, like, into her head, you married the Joker, and then they all make this suggestion that they want to kill the Bat. And then what happens if, bam, the Joker shows up again, and then Batman shows up again, and, like, it's a huge, like, fuck fest, but you could have had a...
And then they would have been torn, they would have all been torn of, like, should we kill Batman?
Exactly.
Or do we stop this lady?
Batman's trying to help them kill Enchantress, but then he's got his own vendetta against Joker.
And they have to overcome that.
And they have to overcome that. Like, that could have been such
And that's how Deadshot becomes a good person. And his scene's like, I didn't kill the Bat, I stopped the bad guy instead.
Yeah.
And I worked alongside Batman instead of trying to stop
And you still could have had his daughter sequence in there, because that still would have been an even more powerful moment with him having to deal with working with the Bat and saving the day.
See, none of this is in the film, and I know this is sort of particular. It's like, these are the opportunities that having a cinematic universe brings. If you have a cinematic universe, you can do all these cool storylines and draw from different things and have these complicated tales because you've set them up. But this DC universe just seems so set on, like, let's try and just get through these things as fast as possible. Like, we're doing Death of Superman now. It's like, Death of Superman should have been done once we actually cared about Superman.
Yeah, I feel like the whole DC universe is flip-flopped. Like, I feel like, okay...
It's not clear. Nothing's clear of when it happens when.
They did the Death of Superman before they did Justice League? That doesn't make any sense to me.
They did Death of Robin. They did Death in the Family.
Yeah.
off screen.
Off screen. So how? I mean, I feel like they're going way too fast. They're jumbling up storylines. They're saying what's going to happen in the future is happening now, and what's happening now is going to happen later on. And they're just jumbling stuff up, and it's making it really hard.
And like Darkseid's coming, and like we're supposed to be worried about that. So then why would we give two shits about some low life Joker? Because the Joker's just a street thug in this movie.
Yeah.
So why would I care? He's not blowing up cities.
Yeah, they could have left him the original Joker we knew because all he is a love interest. They could have kept him classic Joker and pleased the fans instead of having.
And actually made him feel threatening because in this film he's like literally just a street thug. He doesn't feel like a threat.
He doesn't at all. It's.
So just these are all just missed opportunities that having again we're talking about what the film could have been and not what was given to us.
What's your rating on this movie? Out of what you want, 5 stars? Out of 5 stars, I give it a 3. There's the kernels of stuff in there that I can latch onto and be like, all right, I like this, and I can as a big comic fan, I can fill in a lot of blanks for myself and enjoy it. So that's where I would give it a 3. That as a comic fan, I can fill in these blanks and give it a 3. Yeah.
If you're not a comic fan, I would say it's probably like a 2 or a 1.
Probably. I would have to agree with you on 3, 2.5, 3 for me because it's I feel like again. DC's going for let's just try to get through all of this with montage, very little plot, and more montage, more monologues, and
no reverence for anything. Yeah. No reverence. Like you don't have to be so stuck on the comics that you can't go anywhere, but you have to have some love for what you're drawing from, love for the characters and what they actually stand for. Harley stands for empowerment and sort of like dealing with abuse and things like that. That's what she means as a character. Yeah. So you throw that out. Batman and Batman v Superman is someone who's like, I don't kill people. His whole thing is I'm going to try and save this world and actually be a symbol of goodness.
Right, because he's fighting Superman who has killed people, and he's like, I won't kill people, but I do. I'm a hypocrite.
But then you just kill. You throw that away. You throw that interesting stuff away. What makes the character important and mean something. Yeah. You throw it away because it looks cool on screen of him killing people. You just toss it away.
Look, hey, they have a beef with 1989 Batman. He only killed the Joker at the end of the movie.
He doesn't kill. One second, I'm gonna pause this here.
Okay.
Actually, we can keep going.
Yeah.
We'll just edit that a little bit out. Like people have brought up to me, the Tim Burton Batman. He killed people too, just like this Batman. But the thing was, that Batman killed with forethought. Like, the Joker he killed at the end of the Tim Burton Batman movie, which, again, spoilers for the Tim Burton 1989 Batman. But he kills the Joker at the end of the movie, but he does so, he chooses to do so, and the Joker actually killed his parents. And there's a personal motive there, which I don't like Batman killing people. I wasn't a big fan of that choice, but at least it made sense within that movie of, like, he chooses. Whereas the Batman and Batman v Superman and the Batman here and stuff like that, just kills people because because it looks cool and he's just very wanton destruction. He's not precise like Batman's supposed to be. He just blows things up.
Right, but the meaning behind that has also been off screen. Like that whole if you're gonna be we have a Batman who kills, well, okay, why? You might want to show death in the family. You might want to make that a separate film. You might want to,
or even if not a separate film, a scene.
A scene.
Show me Jason Todd being murdered to death by a crowbar, and Batman showing up and finding the body, and him being like, you know what? Fuck this.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
And you could have done that in this film.
You could have.
You could have showed Joker showing up, and then you would have.
That would have been reason. That would have been all the perfect reason. That you could have explained the whole friggin' teeth grill. The grill
because he got beat the fuck up by Batman.
Yeah, like Batman kills Jason Todd in a scene, and then Joker kills Jason Todd in the scene, and then Batman just pummels the fuck out of him, and then he's got a missing teeth in his huge gap in his mouth. Like then you could explain the whole tattoos and all that and changing characters.
It's just this whole DC vibe. It just doesn't.
It's not working. It doesn't feel like DC.
It doesn't feel like it's a universe.
Yeah,
it feels like it feels like they're trying to force this universe to happen without taking the time to really set up what does having a universe mean. And that's disappointing because you have the chance to tell some really complicated stories. Again, it's kind of a hard connection. You shouldn't directly compare it to Marvel, but that's sort of what you have to do. I don't like Marvel as much. It doesn't speak to me as well. Those characters don't speak to me as well, but they do it better in the movies now because when they have things interact, they mean something. They build upon it.
Yeah.
And that's just disappointing that that here in DC they just don't take advantage of that.
It was just like one
and
big
don't
trailer.
Don't give things their own character. Like this film had such potential to be to like have its own quirkiness and its own voice to say in the DC universe, and it just doesn't. It's more of the same, more big budget, blowy up superhero crap.
Yeah.
And not trying to be different.
Yeah.
And when it does try to be different, it feels so insincere that it feels awkward. Like with the character of Diablo, it felt insincere because it felt like white guys, like white Warner Brothers executives, white dudes trying to be like, hey, I totally understand what it means to be Hispanic, right? We're cool. Like, I get what the Hispanic lifestyle is about. That's what he felt like, a caricature of a Hispanic character, of like someone from that background. Same thing with like Killer Croc. He's like, there's that moment when Killer Croc's like, yo, what's up, dog? This is me gonna go down I'm gonna go down the sewer. This is my home. Like, and it felt like he was just like, he was gangstery, but in like a very stereotypical weird way.
It was weird.
It didn't feel like, if you're gonna have like a gangster vibe for this film, like maybe bring in a director or a writer who does something like bring on someone who did I forget who directed, but like whoever directed Straight Outta Compton or something like that. So it doesn't feel like a white guy saying things about non-white people.
Yeah.
Or or someone from like a business executive being like trying to understand what it's like to be, living on the street or being in a gang or things.
Also,
like that.
Killer Croc was only Killer Croc from the head to the shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Killer Croc has a tail. I'm just gonna say that.
Killer Croc is not like a crocodile dude.
He's not even a crocodile dude. He's just like a deformed and I didn't like his character.
What character?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's not about disliking his character. I didn't mind him that much, except for the awkwardness.
He was cloaked and hooded. I thought there was gonna be like a reveal with him, like
right?
Scaly.
Why would you bring a hoodie the whole time? Why didn't he take off his damn shirt and be like, "I'm fucking Killer"? At the end of the film, I wanted him. In fact, he doesn't even blow up the bomb. There, he like goes under the water and has this really confusing fight scene under the water. And he should have been the one to like, "I'm grabbed the bomb, strapped it up. All right, now blow it." If he's the one that put it shouldn't have been some rando human dude. It should have been some actual dude. It should have been Killer Croc doing that, and so he had a big moment. And then when at the end fight sequence, he like comes up, rips his shirt, was like, "I'm fucking Killer Croc," and then beats the shit out of the brother. And you could have had him and Diablo having a cool fight sequence, and then it would have been a great character moment for Diablo. Would have had a cool reveal moment for Killer Croc, and then Killer Croc gets knocked back, and then you still have the moment of Diablo Diablo dying.
Because you had Boomerang's moment when he like flicks the spine and all that. You have a lot of moments with Captain Boomerang. But
who's another character I didn't care about.
Who's another character we don't really care about, but you don't have a lot with Diablo who we're supposed to care about, but we kind of do, kind of don't.
Like, his story is good. It just felt... It just didn't feel sincere. It didn't feel like he was really... It just felt like a white person wrote the scenes.
Yes, it was really insincere. It really was.
Like, not to be like all racial about it, because I'm obviously a white person, so I don't want to speak too much to it. But it felt insincere.
But you can tell it feels insincere when it feels out of place in the context of the story. Mm-hmm. It really was like, "Yo, dog, that's my territory. I'm gonna go before you." Like that's not what I imagined Killer Croc to be. Like, it's not what I imagined.
Even if you do see him that way, it just feels like a stereotype.
It is right. It's like they forced a stereotype on him, and like that's not the real representation of Killer Croc. Just mind you, like that's not who he's supposed to be. And so I was really disappointed in that. And I think there's a trend in the DC universe now where we're they want to relate. They want to take these characters that we love so much, that have a huge history, and kind of like retrofit them with our ideologies and like stereotypes and like the modern way of thinking. And it's like, well, I don't really think that's necessary, because if you dumb down a character, to
try and make him more palatable,
to a younger audience or to a market audience that you're forcing upon, it's not going to make your film any more successful. Yes, everyone will go see it because of all the hype you've put into it, all the money you've put into the trailer, all the marketing campaigns.
Yeah. Give your characters a voice. Don't make them stereotypes. Right, make them have something to say.
Like, what's going to happen?
Make them stand for something. Make Batman or Harley or Joker stand for something.
Right.
instead of just being like, oh, they're a gangster. Like, Joker's a gangster, we're going to put the gangster thing on him. Killer Croc's a thug, we're going to put the thug thing on him. Diablo's like a Hispanic guy
so
living
put the Hispanic,
gang person in there. Put deals drugs. We'll put that on him.
Right.
Like, no, have them mean something. And the only person that felt like he actually meant something in this film, to a degree, was Deadshot. Deadshot was great. I actually liked Deadshot a lot in this film. We won't get too much into him because we were kind of hitting the end of our time here. But Deadshot was actually really good. He's the only character in this film that I actually felt like he actually meant something. And even he wasn't perfect, but he felt like his story had something worth saying.
Yeah.
His story is like a bad guy learning how to be a good guy for his daughter. Like, I can get behind that. That actually feel like it says something. But like Harley's story of like she's just in love. She starts at the movie in love. She ends the movie in love, and she learns the power of friendship.
Yeah, no. If you had the more abusive parts of their relationship in the movie, it would have made it more, a lot more satisfying.
And have her mean something.
And have it mean something, and maybe some sort of power struggle between the Joker and Harley. But at the end, I do like that he goes and he saves her because he still loves her. She still loves him.
I don't mind that as much. It just doesn't. It just means she starts and ends in the same place.
Exactly.
Deadshot's the only character that feels like and Rick Flag. He starts in love with the girl. He ends in love with the girl.
Yeah.
Killer Croc. Everyone. Nothing changes. The only character that changes is Deadshot.
Yeah.
It's the only character that felt like he had an arc, felt like he had something, and you had other characters that felt like there were arcs within there that you could have had, and that we maybe even were there when we're cut out, and you just didn't have them.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think we should wrap up the discussion.
Yeah. Overall, I was quite disappointed. I did like a lot of the visuals and some of the homages to the DC
and their
characters, and there were some really good moments.
There are kernels of really good scenes. There's things worth being in
kernels.
There, but only kernels. Only kernels. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining the Trans Nerdy Podcast. Again, sorry that this sort of is a bit of a hodgepodge of our discussion, but I hope you enjoyed us talking about Suicide Squad, and I will see you on the next episode. Have a good week.